Hey y'all, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about eyeshadow palettes, which you guys know is my heart. I love eyeshadow palettes. There's definitely an abundance of eyeshadow palettes when it comes to my collection. I like to display my palettes. I love eyeshadow palettes. So today we're going to be doing a video that was originated by Julie Mazzucato. I hope I got her last name right, but she originated this video, and then I saw both Adalia Mama Beauty and Annette's Makeup Corner do this tag, so I'll have all of their channels linked down below if you want to watch more of this type of video. But we are going to be talking about, as I said, eyeshadow palettes. The idea for this video, as you guys saw from the title, is if I had to declutter one palette from every brand that I own, which palette would it be? This is going to be a hard one. Now, I did put a couple parameters around this, one being that only palettes or only brands that I had at least 4 palettes from, 4 and above. I almost did 3, but then I just feel like that would be a little tricky, so at least 4, like I have enough from the collection to then declutter one. So that's what we're doing, and we're doing both a drugstore, high-end, whatever brand of eyeshadow palettes that I had at least 4 palettes from, and there are piles of palettes all around me, so I am so excited and scared to get into this because I know it's going to be hard. But before we do dive in, I want to let you guys know that I'm collaborating on this video with Michelle here on YouTube. Her channel name is Makeup with Michelle, and I discovered her only like a couple months ago. I can't remember how long ago I've been following her, but ever since I discovered her, I've just been in love with her channel, her personality. She is a wonderful YouTuber and another YouTuber who is a lover of color when it comes to her eyeshadows. She loves her nudes, not saying she doesn't do neutral. So if you like neutral and colorful, she is your girl because she can do some amazing, beautiful, colorful eyeshadow looks. But yeah, as I said, I found her recently. I think she just hit 1K, which is so exciting. I'm so excited to see her grow and more people find her channel. I highly recommend you go over and check her out after you're done watching this and see what she picked, because we're both going to be taking all the palettes in our collection and deciding which palette we would declutter if we had to. I know it's going to be hard. I cannot wait to see what Michelle picks. And if you're coming over from Michelle's channel, thank you so much for checking out my video, and I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my picks. I'm definitely a lover of color when it comes to my eyeshadow, as you guys can see. So if you like color, if you like eyeshadow palettes, if you like indie eyeshadow palettes, you're in the right spot, and feel free to subscribe if you want more of this type of content. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and do our Instagram shout out for today. So my Instagram shout out for today is AprilH00. April is my Instagram shout out. Thank you so much for interacting with my content and leaving a comment. And if you want a chance to be featured as my Instagram shout out in the beginning of my videos, all you have to do is be following me on Instagram and comment on my new posts as I do them. And then when I sit down to record a video, I'll randomly select someone to give a little shout out to. So at this point, let's just go ahead and jump right into talking about eyeshadow palettes. Right off the bat, I have to say I'm very excited that this is a fictitious question, because if I actually had to declutter what I am choosing as my palette to declutter, I would be heartbroken. But anyway, I like my palettes, even if I'm not always using them. I still like them. Okay, let's start with the most that I have from any one brand, and it is, let me see if I can get them all, LORAC Cosmetics. I have a lot from LORAC. LORAC is kind of where I discovered very pigmented eyeshadows and just like discovering mattes that blend beautifully. And so I had a little bit of an obsession with them for a time, and I bought a lot of their products. So we might as well start with the very first one. I have the LORAC Pro To Go, and I'll go ahead and open these all up so you guys can see them in case any of these palettes that I'm mentioning you guys don't have. That's the LORAC Pro To Go. Let's see, I have the LORAC Pro Original, LORAC Pro 2, LORAC Pro 3, which Olivia got in when she was like 8 or 9 months old. I forget. Maybe she was like 10 months old. She was like crawling and whatnot, and I left it on like a little table and she pulled it and scratched at it. Anyway, the Mega Pro 1 palette. I was so into neutrals when these Mega palettes were all coming out, so I bought them each and every year and loved them each and every year. This is the Mega Pro 2, Mega Pro 3, which used to be my favorite palette because, as I said, I was like super into neutrals. Ugh, these little things are so annoying. So this palette was just like so many possibilities when it comes to neutrals, even though now I look at that and I'm just like, you could pick any 3 colors and it would all look the same. But anyway, then this is the Mega Pro 4. And then after those, all the Megas, oh, I also have the LORAC Neon Lights palette. I actually did a 3 looks 1 palette of this palette on my channel. I'll have that linked in the description box, but that's my most recent LORAC purchase. And I also have this Beauty and the Beast and LORAC palette, Tale as Old as Time. I love it because Beauty and the Beast was my favorite Disney movie growing up, and I love that it's a book. And then last up is the Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales. One of my favorite packaging, because at the side of this is a little secret compartment where you could put the face palette. It came with a little face palette that I have down there, but That was so cool. So anyway, those are all of my LORAC palettes that I own. And if I had to pick one to declutter, I feel like I could pick a lot of these because they're just so repetitive. But I mean, one reason I like to hold on to them is because they're such good palettes. I've already spent the money. Some of them are already old. And also too, if I ever go back to liking neutrals, I'm set when it comes to neutrals. So that's another reason I like to keep. And also nostalgia. I have a lot of memories wrapped with LORAC. But anyway, if I had to declutter one, definitely this is my oldest. This has got to be 7 or 8 years old. But I wouldn't declutter it because it's just got so many memories to it. Okay, we're going to talk about one I'm going to declutter. And I would do the LORAC Pro 3. Because this is so neutral and I have all the other LORAC Mega Pros, I could totally duplicate this easily, and looking at it just as a whole, it's the one that excites me the least. I know the original is very boring, but there's range, there's depth here, there's lightness here, you can get a lot of looks. I don't know, this one looking at it now is just so medium toned. I don't know, it just doesn't really excite me. Yeah, if I had to pick, I would get rid of the LORAC Pro 3. Okay, so that's the brand I had the most from. Let's just keep on going. I'm going to pull this because it's in front of me. Too Faced. I have a rather large Too Faced collection. I really tried to think of like all the palettes I have. I really hope I'm not forgetting any, but I did my best. Oh, I also forgot to say that when it came to palettes, they had to have at least 5 or more shadows. So anything 4 and under in my mind is like a quad or a trio, whatnot. So I'm not including them in my 4 or more palettes to qualify. Anyway, for Too Faced, I have, I guess I'll get them in order. I have the original chocolate bar that I picked up pretty much for just have the collection because at the time I was kind of into collecting everything. Then I have the semi-sweet chocolate bar palette. Then the chocolate bonbons palette. I used to be on Too Faced PR, so I got this in PR. I remember that so long ago. I also got the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette, which I got in PR as well. This is a fun palette that still smells good. Wow. Too Faced Gingerbread Spice palette. I purchased this because by the time this came out, it was off of their PR, but that has a couple pops in it. And then last up is the Too Faced Chocolate Gold, which is their most recent palette that I bought. I'm pretty sure, wait, I forget which one came out first actually. I could be wrong. Anyway, this is definitely my favorite and still smells like chocolate. Oh my goodness. Anyway, if I had to pick between this, I feel like it's very easy. And while the semi-sweet palette and the chocolate bonbons palette, let me see if I can open it for my other hand. These come close as being pretty boring, but they still have a little bit of interest, a little bit of pop. But the palette that has absolutely no pop at all is the original palette because this, I don't know, there's depth to it, which I guess is nice. But when it comes to interesting colors that kind of grab my attention as soon as I open a palette, this really doesn't do it for me. I mean, this is the most popping thing, and it's like a pale pink that will not show up at all on my skin tone, so I would declutter this. Let's move on to Colourpop. I own the Colourpop Yes Please palette, which looks like this. The My Little Pony palette, the Honey palette, the Just My Luck palette, and then the Orange You Glad palette. This is actually really hard because in each of these palettes, I feel like there's an aspect that I really like, and I've only ever purchased from Colourpop things that really interest me. And when I started purchasing from Colourpop, it was when I was more intrigued by color. But I think if I had to declutter one, it would have to be this one. This is the Colourpop Honey palette because when I used this, it was honestly a big disappointment. Like if you like very neutral eyeshadow looks, like not too defined, very soft all over, then you'll like this palette. But I reached for this not wanting that and I was very disappointed. So while I like the concept of a yellow palette, this was definitely very disappointing when it came to delivering a very nice yellow palette in my opinion. So I'll go ahead and name the Honey palette as a palette I would declutter. Okay, to move on, I just want to throw out there, it's been like 15 minutes. Levi woke up early, so he is now here with me. Hopefully he won't be too loud so I can finish up with this video, but let's just keep pressing on while he is happy. Next, we're going to go on to Wet n Wild, right, Baba? We're going to go on to Wet n Wild, and I have 4 palettes exactly from them. I have their, what is it, Rose in the Air. I guess I can open this so you can actually see it well. Rose in the Air, Not a Basic Peach, the Comfort Zone, and then the old original Comfort Zone, which maybe this is a little bit of a cheat, but... Oh, I dropped the sponge applicator, but yeah, the Comfort Zone. So, looking at all these, if I had to declutter one, this is hard because, like, none of them are all that bad. But, I feel like if I was to declutter one, I would declutter the original, even though, like, I keep it now for sentimental reasons because you can't get a hold of this, and I have so many memories of this palette, even though it doesn't look used. I used it a ton. I was very careful back in the day. But, yeah, I really enjoyed this palette. It was the first time experiencing a duochrome, which I thought was so very cool. But if I'm looking at the palettes, I really do like to have mattes and whatnot, so that's kind of a downside of this, is that there are no mattes. So I think I would go ahead and just say I declutter this which would be sad. Thankfully, this is all pretend. But yeah, I would keep these because even though they are neutral and very, you know, not that exciting, there's a little pop in each of them, which I appreciate, but it has mattes to work with, which I always need. Next, let's do Anastasia Beverly Hills. I have 4 palettes from her. The first one being the Modern Renaissance, which is such a classic, and I got it kind of after the hype, and I really enjoyed it when I did get it. Then next I have the Subculture palette, which has such a legacy behind it. After that, I got the Norvina palette before the other Norvina palettes and all that came out. But yeah, this is the purple Norvina palette, and then the last palette I ever got from her was the Riviera palette, which, I mean, it's a very colorful palette, but if you look at it and kind of cover, I don't know, these 2, I feel like are the brightest, these 3 maybe? I don't know, it's not that colorful. But anyway, getting back to the matter at hand, if I had to declutter one, I think I'd declutter the Norvina. Even though I like the Norvina and I like different aspects, I'm not super into purple, and that's just the way it is with me. So I feel like this is purple and neutral, which doesn't really excite me. I love my Subculture. Modern Renaissance, while it still is very neutral, I do prefer and enjoy to work with reds and those deeper mauve tones than with purples. And then the Riviera palette, at least, has some, you know, interesting colors in here. It has the pink, has the blue, has the gold. So I feel like I would enjoy that. But this, looking at it, just, I'm not into the pink and purple and neutral combination. It's just not for me. So I declutter the Norvina. Okay, next up I have the Smashbox palettes. I have their little, what are these, cover shot palettes? These are all the ones that I have from them. I don't have any of the other palettes that they've released. This is the Bold eyeshadow palette, which I haven't played with this in forever. This was my first intro to colorful makeup, and I thought it was amazing, but I'm curious to try it now that I have tried so many colorful shadows. I just haven't gotten around to it. This is the Pinks and Palms. It was a cute little palette, very pastelish. This is the Matte Eyes, which when I got to the first set of their cover shots, I was all into that palette because I loved my all matte neutral eye looks. This I really, really liked. This was a blaze, my favorite one. This was kind of like the condensed, more deep, grungy version of the ABH Modern Renaissance palette. But yeah, that was a really pretty one I really enjoyed. And then last up is the Smashbox and Vlada Petal Metal eyeshadow palette. This is the one they did in collab with Vlada. I forget her full name, but she always did the really cool lip art pictures. But yeah, that's what they did. Looking at it, I'd have to go with the Vlada one because everything else has something about it that I like. Well, that all matte one is really boring, actually. I'll have to look at those. Pinks and Palms isn't too exciting, but at least has something. Then the colorful, and then the Modern Renaissance dupe. Let me look at these two. It's between the Vlada and the all matte, I forget what it's called already, the Matte Eyes palette, but it's between these two. But I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Vlada still because looking at it, there's only 2 mattes, this very light one and then this very deep one. Everything else is shimmer, which you guys know I'm not as into shimmer. This, while it is very boring and there's no real pop, I mean, maybe if you want to call that the pop of purple, at least there's different tones of the matte shade, so you can get a lot of variety while still staying very neutral, and which isn't my speed these days, but you can get a lot more variety. For me and my personal preferences and what I like to work with, I love to do all my eye looks. Whereas this one, no matter what I used, you know, no matter what shimmers I used, the mattes would always be the same, so it would always be the same type of look for what I can do at least. So I'm gonna pick the Smashbox and Vlada, even though the cover is so cool. I don't even know if I'm doing it right, but you can see the drips. Okay, next up is my Menagerie palette collection. I have exactly 4, and the first one I'm grabbing is the Pastel Pup, which is her newest launch. Then this is the Feral palette. Ugh, this was my intro to Menagerie's cosmetics and her formula. Then the Killer Purr. And then last but not least, the Whale Song, which you guys know I am not opting to declutter that at all. This is really easy for me just because of my preferences. I know my eyes today are actually mostly all pastel shadows. They're from Gimme Glow, but I'm actually not super into pastels, so I would choose to declutter the Pastel Pup palette, even though I think it's absolutely adorable, and I really did enjoy the looks that I got with it, and these are fun for pastels. I just, if it's going up against these 3, I mean, come on. I like my grungy and my brights. Pastels are fun. They're just a fun phase that I'm really enjoying when it comes to makeup, but if I had to declutter something, these aren't going anywhere. Okay, we have 2 more piles, I think. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything, but let's do, oh wait, no, I have 3. It was hiding. There was a pile hiding behind this one, but this is Juvia's Place. Let's do Juvia's Place first. I have the Tri palette by Juvia's Place. Okay, the Tri palette. Let's not do that for all of these, Katie. The Berries palette, the Violets palette. I think it always trips me up because it actually says, like, for each of the names, it says the name by Juvia, so that's why I always say. Anyway, the Magic palette, which was sent to me by a subscriber. She was so very sweet. The Warrior 3 palette. I forgot these don't have any mirrors, so I don't have to worry about it. The Zulu palette. I can open it up all the way without blinding y'all. The Wahala palette, which is their newest palette. The Nomad palette. And then last but not least, this is actually the first palette I ever got from them, the Masquerade Mini. This was the first palette I got. This introduced me to Juvia's Place and got me into color because I thought this was very like comfortable. I was very safe with this because I could go very neutral and just do a pop of color. But those are all the palettes that I have from Juvia's Place, and this is going to be so easy for me. I kind of feel like I'm cheating a bit because it is so easy, but I will get rid of the Violets palette. I did a 3 looks 2 palettes video on this. I'll have that link down below, but if you guys saw that, this is going to come as no surprise because this purple, this matte purple, was so difficult to work with. I did not like it. And then when you're looking at this palette, the only other option you have for a matte is this shade, which is very pastel and very light on my skin. So it's just, I mean, the shimmers, the purples shimmers are beautiful, gorgeous. If you like purple shimmers, this is definitely a good option. But for me, I've already said it in this video, I'm not a big fan of purple. So the fact that these mattes weren't easy to work with and it really is just a shimmer palette, it's an easy declutter. Okay, so the stack that was hiding are my Mavie palettes. Let's go through these. I have the Take Me to Tokyo, which it looks like this. Take Me to Santorini. All of their palettes are themed around a destination. Take Me to Hong Kong. And then Take Me to Istanbul. Trying to think. These all have something in them that I do really like. Surprisingly, even this neutral one, I really like those orange and the mix of the purples. The purple iridescent topper is really nice. This is hard because there's something in each of these palettes I really do like. Levi is done. He's like, hurry up and choose, mommy. I'm ready to go. I feel like it's between the Hong Kong and Istanbul palettes, one of these two. This Istanbul is mainly because when we're talking about matte, there's only these 4 mattes. And then the rest of them are shimmers, and then these 2 greens are just so similar. They kind of, I wish they would have swapped them out for a different matte. But looking at it like that and thinking about the mattes, that always helps me decide if I kind of like focus on matte shimmer and then see what I like. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Take Me to Hong Kong palette to declutter because while it is more colorful than the Istanbul, when we're talking about the matte, it's got purple and red, which aren't my favorite. I really like these orange and this mustardy brownish tone. I love those tones when it comes to eyeshadow palettes. So as a whole, this palette isn't as colorful and popping to me and as exciting as like, you know, the pop of gold and whatnot. When we're talking about the tones and the colors to work with and the eye looks that you can get, I don't mind neutral every now and then, as long as it's like that kind of burnt orangey and kind of mustardy tones. So yeah. Well, it is a neutral palette. It's a neutral palette I like. Basically, all that to say, I'm choosing the Hong Kong palette, or Take Me to Hong Kong palette, as the palette I would declutter. There are palettes all over the place right now, so I hope I'm correct when I say that this is my last pile. He is having so much fun with this toy. But anyway, it is my Makeup Revolution, and I don't know if this is kind of cheating because this is Makeup Revolution, like it's on the title, and this is I Heart Revolution. Sorry, he just burped. But I'm putting them all together because they are the same brand. If that's a little bit of cheating, you can ignore this last collection or this last set of palettes. But anyway, the ones I have is I Heart Revolution's Heartbreaker palette in the Lucky. I'm so sorry, he is so chatty. I knew I shouldn't have recorded today. I had a feeling he was going to wake up early. The I Heart Revolution Tasty Avocado palette. The Makeup Revolution Reloaded Euphoria palette. The Makeup Revolution Forever Flawless Birds of Paradise palette. And then last up is the Makeup Revolution The Emily Edits The Wants palette, which looks like this. I haven't touched this in so very long. Okay, so those are all the palettes that I have to work with. Part of me is like, maybe this is a no-brainer because I should just declutter the neutral palette because I'm not into neutrals. But while this is a very soft palette, when we're talking about neutrals, I actually don't mind it. And I like that there's those pops of color. Yes, they're very soft, but it has the green, it has the purple, it has the red. It has the depth that I like to get. So just looking at this makes me want to reach for it again, but I actually do like this palette. I like the colors in there. I think it's going to come down to the Makeup Revolution Flawless Forever, or Forever Flawless Birds of Paradise palette, because I really didn't like the glitters and the shimmers in this palette, and the Heartbreaker Lucky palette, because it just, you can see my review, there aren't many options. I think it's the brown or the green was very tricky to blend out, and the yellow was like non-existent, so just going through that in my mind. While all the shimmers in here are dead in my opinion, at least it has a lot of colorful mattes to work with, whereas this as a whole, if I took out all the shades that I didn't like working with, I feel like I'm left with like 5 or 6 shadows. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this one for the one I would declutter, the I Heart Revolution Lucky palette. Alright, so I went through all the brands that I had 4 or more eyeshadow palettes from, and these are all the ones that I am decluttering. This is all pretend, thankfully, but if I had to declutter one from every brand that I own of 4 or more palettes, these would be them. So just for fun, let's run through them very quickly. I have the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette, which I wouldn't be too sad if I had to get rid of. The LORAC Pro 3 palette, again, not too sad. I just like keeping them for nostalgia. ABH Norvina palette. wouldn't be too mad at. The Smashbox and Vlada palette, again, wouldn't be too mad at. The Juvia's Place, the Violets palette, again, wouldn't be too mad at. The Pastel Pup palette from Menagerie, I would be mad at this. The Mavie Take Me to Hong Kong, another one I would be sad to lose. The Colourpop Honey palettes, I like having it. I feel like I would enjoy it more if I paired it with another really good yellow palette. The Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette, I would be sad to lose this, mainly just for memory's sake. And then the I Heart Revolution Heartbreaker Lucky palette. Those would be all the palettes I'd be decluttering. Alright, so Levi is now on my lap. I figured he can do the outro with me. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing all my picks. I do want to throw out there real quick, like I was saying, I wouldn't be mad at if I had to declutter some of these palettes, and I have had comments in the past of like, you're not using half of those palettes, why don't you declutter them? And I just want to throw out there that one, I like keeping it for collector's aspect, especially the older ones that I would just have to throw away. If I enjoy having it in my collection, I don't see the harm just keeping it instead of putting it in the trash. And two, I like to have it for comparisons. Three, I like to keep neutrals because you never know when I'm going to want a neutral, or maybe I'm just going to wake up one day and be like, I hate color, and go, I don't think that'll happen. But you know, I like to have it because I already have it in my collection. I've already spent the money, so if I ever want a neutral palette or need to do a neutral eye look on someone, I have it here. So that's why I just think it's worth keeping. And three, I'm an eyeshadow addict. What can you say? But anyway, oh my goodness, I hope you guys enjoyed that. He loves to jump. I did a video with him recently, and I'll leave it linked up here. I forget which one I did the intro with him, but he was jumping and it looked like I was making him jump, but no, I promise you that is all him. He just jumps on my lap, or you know, with his legs on my legs. Right now he's sitting in my lap and jumping. Like that's how much he loves to jump. There he goes. Yeah. Might as well angle the camera down so you guys can see his face. Oh my goodness. You're just a mess. We've been spitting up everywhere, huh? Hi. Hi. She's so happy. Anyway, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This was really fun to just sit down and think about if I did have to declutter, what I would declutter, and also just to see how many palettes that I own from one brand, because I thought I would have a lot more, but turns out like when I put that boundary of at least 4 or more, I didn't have too many to go through. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 brands, I had more than 4 palettes. But anyway, I thought it was a super fun idea, and as soon as I saw Annette and Amy do it, I knew I wanted to do it. So I was so glad when Michelle agreed to do this video with me, and as I said in the beginning, make sure you go and check out her video because she's going to do the same with her palettes, and I'm sure we have different types of palettes so you can see different answers, different personalities, different palettes and whatnot featured in each of the videos. But thank you, Michelle, so much for doing this with me, and if you're coming over from our channel, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to subscribe if you want to stick around and see more content like this, because I like the eyeshadow palettes and I like the colors. So if either of those two things are things that you like, feel free to stick around because that's what I like to talk about most on my channel. But anyway, with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up on your way out, as it helps me in the whole YouTube algorithm. If you want to follow me on Instagram and have a chance to be featured as my Instagram shout out at the beginning of my videos, just follow me. I'm LadyKatie92 and comment on my new posts as they go up, and you might get to be in a video. But yeah, with all that said, we're gonna go now and go play. I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye, guys.